Good evening. This is Goldy, also known as Mr. Anecdotal, Mr. Pasty, and the Talking Head. I'm so happy to be here again. Also, I'm a flip-flopper in the way that I want my doctor, my lawyer, my therapist, my politician, my friends, and my family to be. When you have new information, you change your theory. It's Thursday, November 3rd, 2016. Remember, most importantly, I rant so you don't have to. If you want an inaccurate transcript of the show, send me an email to goldyrant@gmail.com. All right, it's been a long time. Long time. People ask me where the rants are. Well, I've discovered this thing, which is bonds, this giant systemic failure of using other people's money to buy votes. And it's going on here in the city of Austin. It went on last year at Travis County, and we killed that courthouse. So tonight I'm going to give you some bullet points as to why you should vote no on the $720 million mobility bond. I'm then going to give you an in-depth analysis of the fatal reason to vote no. And when I say fatal, I mean the incompetence or intentionally misleading behavior. I mean that the incompetence or intentionally misleading behavior is so substantial that I requested the City Council to pull it from the ballot. I'm separately recording this. That's up there, and we'll put it on YouTube. Sorry, it'll be from another angle. I can't even remember who was running in 2008 who tried to do that. There's a couple of statements from proponents that I need to put out there first so I can refute their stinking, smelly lies. So this is page 2 from Lewis Black in the Chronicle, this week's. There is consensus that the country is in serious trouble, but despite the range of usual suspects, the problem is us. We the people. Not a corrupt ruling elite, but the voters who, overwhelmed by an ever-changing world, feel powerless. That's compounded by the shared conviction that the government is broken, with those running it completely corrupt. And he's actually going through just general politics. But I like that statement on how everybody is kind of feeling. Last week, Michael King did Point Austin, page 2 in the Austin Chronicle. It's about the mobility bond. Unlike seemingly every other Austinite, I don't profess to be a traffic engineer. I don't know certainly the best way to solve Austin's traffic problems. Although I'm convinced leveling more buildings and eating up more land for motor vehicle lanes, aka the Katy Freeway solution, is not the way to go. Okay. While I don't expect those planned projects to deliver miracles, he went through some of the things about the corridors. Either for vehicle throughput or for shifting the load more broadly across other transportation modes, the projects appear to be necessary steps in the right direction, and an attempt to keep pace with badly overdue infrastructure upgrades in the next decade of metropolitan growth. Now, in this thing, Michael King went through dishonest opposition, of which I am a part of. Okay? A few other myths about the bond and its consequences need puncturing. And he goes through some stuff. Transparency, missing piece, public input. Transparency. Okay? And you all know that I like truth in lending. That's one of my things about the process of bonds. But let's just read his Fox News attempt to put something into opponents' mouths. Now, we'll get to the bullet points later, but I just have to show you my anger at having read this right now. Transparency. So he's trying to talk about the critics. Bond opponents are using this term oddly to mean the 3 buckets of the bond: regional highways, central city corridors, and local multimodal projects should have been split up to be voted on separately. When I read that, I didn't even know where it came from. So I continued reading the Chronicle, and Michael King did another big hit job on the opponents to the bond. He really wants this thing to happen. And he said, he was talking about on the 18th of August, talking about Councilmember Don Zimmerman, who denounced the city's attorneys for lobbying the council instead of providing opinions that coincided with his own. He also objected that the ballots would not allow voters to choose among the 3 project buckets. Okay, so he's using the definition of transparency to mean something that Don Zimmerman said at one council meeting, when in fact transparency, you're about to see what it is. Okay, so that handles some of the stuff that's got me angry today. All right, what I'm doing is by the way, on Monday at noon at the City Hall, there will be a press conference. So any opponents that can come out there, come out. I'm going to be doing some bullet points. There'll be a lot of speakers. Councilmember Houston will be there. It'll be worth it. All right, these are the bullet points and slight explanations, and I am working on these, but I need to get them out there right now. Vote no on the mobility bond tax. Every bond or tax increase that ever passes has to take affordability into account. If my rent is going up because of this bond, it better be with scalpel-like precision. If you review the city's materials, you will see that this bond is like a dull hammer wielded by a bad-tempered infant who can walk, not a surgeon with a scalpel. Again, these are bullet points. We'll get to them. Now, we read that thing that was page 2 from Lewis Black, and I disagree with it because I think that we trust our elected officials to be honest with us. We really do. Since they have breached that trust in the process of selling this bond to the voters, as you will see, the burden is not on the opponents to tell voters why to vote no. The burden is on the people pushing the bond to convince us beyond a reasonable doubt as to why we should vote yes for this giant loan, to be repaid with our property taxes and rents. So the burden has shifted. I even used that today at the YMCA when I was playing basketball, talking to one of the actually business owners on one of the corridors about this. He goes, why should I vote no? And I go, no. The burden is on them as to why to vote yes. Bullet point number 4. We have a sacred duty to our neighbors to be very sure before we vote to borrow money. It's kind of like roadblocks, going, I have nothing to hide, so you can pull me over for no reason, even though, of course, that's unconstitutional. Okay, they say they want the money and I trust them, let's go ahead and do it. No. Not only do you have a sacred duty to yourself, you have a sacred duty to your neighbors who also pay taxes to really know what this thing is for and what it's going to cost before you vote for it. Looking at some of the tax materials here, we are known as do-nothings. So if you're an opponent, you're a do-nothing. And so the mayor has been doing this thing, which is what everybody else in the city has been doing. We got to do something. I mean, repeated over and over again. And by people. And by Michael King. Certainly by the mayor and his pack. Well, as a friend of mine said, we don't got to do something stupid. The drivers that originally drove this thing are getting ripped off with a reduction of lanes, replacement of chicken lanes with raised landscape irrigated medians, slowing speed limits, and reduced sized lanes. With 14 miles of through lanes being built, but 15 miles of through lanes being taken away per the city's own ambiguous plans, including taking some for bike lanes and buses. Contrary to the pack. It's in the city's materials. They are again lying. They basically can't say a single true statement. Now, the mayor points to true statements that are misleading. All right, I'm getting off on that. Anyway, this is per the city's ambiguous plans. This is about the 15 miles that are going away in the smart corridors. We are losing 1 net mile of car driving lanes and 20 miles of center turn lanes, like in front of Matt's El Rancho on South Lamar, which are being replaced by these very pretty and expensive medians. Upon their guaranteed failure, these medians will then reconstruct the center turn lanes into stacking lanes, which will constantly need to be lengthened as traffic gets worse. Think about it. There's 8 cars. The 9th car sticks out. Okay? So you've completely defeated the purpose of having a U-turn into the median. Do you see the ridiculousness of us having to keep going farther back into the median so that the cars doing these U-turns on South Lamar can get out of the way of the through traffic in the left lane? Just think of Matt's El Rancho on South Lamar. Also, this was the mayor's ridiculous response at the Austin Tech Alliance rally that I attended. I put my sign down. Why are we irrigating medians in a permanently drought-stricken area? That is showing completely some of the stupidity of this thing. Why wouldn't we have cactus and stones? Okay, number 6, the bicycle lobby, like Bike Austin's getting ripped off on the idea that no bike lanes are going in without this bond. I was driving to ACC the other day off of Riverside, and Grove Boulevard, they were striping about 1/10 of a mile of bike lane without this bond. Liars. And by the way, why would they possibly put bike lanes on Burnett and not on parallel roads that are dramatically safer, as well as the Giant Hill on Spicewood Springs Road at 360. They have a bike lane plan for that. I don't know how much it's going to cost. $1 million. Now, the corridor plans have huge 10-foot sidewalks and bike lanes on both sides of the street. Why can't we do like on Barton Springs? One side only. We certainly can't afford to do anything that loses car lanes. That's insanity, which is happening in this redevelopment plan. This is a stupid bond. I know you're not supposed to just describe something as stupid, but it is. That's why they can't come up with anything. We keep finding out things and coming up with them and telling you about them. Just think about it. If it had been a $300 million bond and 30 miles of through lanes, it would have passed without opposition, no matter what I said or did, no matter what the Travis County Taxpayers Union did, no matter what those PACs did. It wouldn't matter. Number 7, they say we are do-nothing critics. We're actually wanting to do something, but this is the worst type of government spending. As my friend Swill would agree. It's not enough. It's not for the right thing. It's not for the promised item, lanes, and it's not at the cost to the taxpayers that they say. Number 8, this bond was rushed by the mayor and took only 1/3 of the normal 18-month bond process time. And we could see the result in the incomplete nature of the plans on the city's website. Trust us. Trust us. Oh, we did a contract with the voters. We can only, what? Anticipate? Maybe? I hope? Number 9, we all understand and agree that there is a traffic problem. So this thing should have been split up into 3 or 4 separate bonds, not buckets. I see at Fox News, Michael King, you know, that's just a bunch of crap that he said there. They should have separated into roads, bike lanes, sidewalks, park trails, bus improvements, and whatever else they wanted to do. Several current city council candidates and council members agree. Number 10, we and I support focused, specific, scalpel-like infrastructure improvements. As I had said earlier, rather than a scalpel, this is like a, well, and the other quote I did was, this is like a floaty for a backyard pool. It will not reduce commuting times for drivers. If you're a driver, you have to vote no. This bond is being pushed by the growth machine and their lackeys. This is number 11. In this case, the mayor. Just read the list of donors to the pro-bond PAC. It's developers, construction companies, Chamber of Commerce, and realtors. And the chamber should be ashamed of how little outreach was done for the businesses, especially on the corridors. And this is another lie. When Roger Falk was debating the mayor on Fox, he said he walked the corridors, which is absolutely not true. Now, he might have walked them, but he certainly didn't walk into the businesses and tell them what might be happening to them. I mean, there's not a single person that the block walkers, the anti-bond block walkers, there wasn't a single person that said the mayor showed up. Now, Ashley Shore said Jim Wick showed up there, beat it, because she publicly said she didn't like it on Fox. Okay, number 12. This $720 million is just a down payment. While the mayor has been implying, until he was called out, that a lot of traffic conditions would improve if we passed this bond. In actuality, to fully implement the corridor plans, we would need to borrow another $1.5 billion. Also, there's not a line item for the condemnation costs on the corridors. So this is just a false promise at a much higher cost. And this item is a big part of the confusion and intentional deception, or complete incompetence. Number 13, many businesses who, by the way, are just learning of this thing contrary to the mayor's public assertion they walk the corridors, are opposed to losing driveways, parking, existing sidewalks, storefronts. How about Black Sheep's porch? They're going to lose the porch. Slowing speed limits and loss of easy access. And of course, the center turn lanes are going to be gone. They're going to be gone when this bond passes. Number 14, in almost all cases, the corridor businesses pay for all taxes and tax increases directly as a pass-through in their lease. Now, maybe not the older leases, but all the new ones. That's what we do. Okay, that's what my clients do. It's pass-through. The taxes get paid by the tenants. And those businesses are trying to stay for just one more year, or at least until the end of their lease term, before property tax increases force them out. Number 15, in almost all of the cases, landlords do not want to lose tenants due to tax increases, nor do they want to lose property value due to the condemnations that will inevitably occur and will pay a pittance to the landlord for the right-of-way taken for sidewalks and bike lanes. Just go to Beat It on South Lamar, right there at Old Torf, and you'll see. She's going to lose parking, her access, and a sidewalk. For sure. Look at Black Sheep. All right? Businesses, now, here's a point that has been confused by some opponents as well. Businesses all know that they risk construction in front of their stores. But the 10-year process for the resulting promised improvements, in this case, are not worth the loss of your business due to construction. So everybody runs a risk that there's going to be construction out there. But if it's going to be unreasonable construction that won't take a reasonable period of time, 10 years is what they're talking about, and you end up with nothing better, you're going to end up with roads that people will continue to avoid because there has been no traffic relief, car traffic relief. Listen to the proponents when they say words, because they will say congestion relief, which means buses and people walking to school also. They define their terms. You won't hear car. That's why this thing is not called a road bond. It is a mobility bond. Started as a road bond. Okay? Anyway, if this were more focused and car lane intensive, businesses that we have spoken with said they would support it. They would have supported it, for sure. Number 17, if we are confused, this is voters, borrowers, we must vote no, just like in a mortgage loan. I gave the mayor several chances to fix this deception of the repayment cost. He chose to ignore my advice. He should be rewarded with a no vote. And I'm not going to say throw the bums out, because, oh well. He's a smart guy. I don't know. Mayor, you cannot argue your way out of the confusion you and the pack have caused. Why are you doing it this way? This is what I've been asking myself. It's a rhetorical question. Well, we all know why, so it's not that rhetorical. If the people knew the true cost, this is my contention, they would vote no. And I mean the true cost to them in their rent and property taxes. Number 18, another proof that they do not want to clear up the confusion. Mayor, why are there no informational sessions as in every one of the past bond issues so that these legitimate and critical questions can be answered? Where's the doggy and pony show? Where's the dog and pony show? They always do one. I'm afraid I might have warned him, don't do it, because you're going to have to tell your lies again and you won't be able to explain it. This is why when you're fighting these bonds, by the way, we're fighting bonds due to their deceptive nature, not due to what they're doing. You don't even have to get to that in my analysis. But I do anyway. Because people don't really understand the numbers. But it's just painful. Why are there no informational sessions? You could ask for one, but my neighborhood association, Swede Hill, completely undemocratic. They don't allow for absentee voting. It's run by a small cadre of people. They want to try and form historic districts. I want to try and form a modern district. All they had to do as a community organization is request one. I asked OSHA, which is the umbrella under which the neighborhood association is, would you please do it? Silence. What's your deal, Ocean? What's your deal, Swede Hill? You certainly don't represent me. All I asked you to do was to have a public informational session, not at one of your regular meetings and not sponsored by you. It says on the city's website you can request one. Losers. Ponchos. This is the largest loan to the city of Austin that anyone has ever asked us to approve, and there's no informational sessions. Okay. Number 19, lower your rent. Vote no on the mobility bond tax. Renters never vote or donate or think they can make a difference. You know, that's why I say here, lower your rent. Lower your rent. Vote no. Prop 1 bond tax. When I ride my bike around, I love bike lanes, by the way. Renters unite. This needs to be a common theme. If you're not in the 1%, by the way, you're a renter. In quotation marks. This is one of the few times in your life that you have a little control over your financial future, which is your rent. Sorry. Vote no. Hey, renters, by the way, your rent includes property taxes. Most renters do not know. That's so painful. So badly parented. Most renters don't know that their rent includes property taxes. Because they go, hey, I don't pay property taxes. Don't you understand that rents always go up when property taxes go up? Always. I'm a landlord, and I've been a tenant. Number 21. We are just trying to stay here in the city we love for one more year before property taxes force us out. Renters and owners. Number 22. Why, in this plan, are we taking on other jurisdictions' road responsibilities like North Lamar and 360, which are TxDOT, Texas Department of Transportation? And you can just look that up by seeing the November 2nd, 2016 Statesman, where TxDOT specifically states that 360 is their obligation. And they have plans for it. And by the way, those plans, there's about 20 of them in there, they all call for adding lanes and not subtracting lanes. I just came from New York, by the way, where adding lanes is a godsend. If you're going over the Whitestone Bridge and you're coming down 95 and you hop onto whatever the thing is that right there before Co-op City, they've added 2 lanes each way. And you know how much traffic is around there? Less. Less. That myth that they're putting out, that somehow increasing lanes will not help traffic, is a really, really interesting thing that some really, really stupid people are believing. Don't be one of those. Number 23, this is the mayor's and the PAC's redevelopment plan, benefiting developers of vertical mixed use, which I like, by the way. But my question is, why aren't those developers paying for the infrastructure improvements instead of the taxpayers and the renters? Let's impose a road impact fee in Austin. We don't have one right now. This thing would cost less if it were that, if we had one of those. We have a sewer, water impact fee. We have plenty of impact fees. Just not a road one. Road impact fee. That would help shift it to some of the 300 new units that are coming in on South Lamar, put it in the big pot, and then ask us for the balance to do some other stuff that actually improves what it is that you are promising. Number 24. This is the worst part of 10.1, and it shows. That's where we districted into 10 districts with a mayor from an at-large system. It is drunken sailor spending to get everyone on board. That's why the price tag jumped to the $720 million. They had an alternative for $250, they had an alternative for $500 million, and then they just decided to go, let's borrow everything we can to legally bribe the various constituencies, which are the individual council members, the bike lobby, the parks lobby, the bus lobby, and construction companies and developers who also donate to council member campaigns. Number 25, lower your property taxes. Vote no on mobility bond tax. By the way, when I tell you about the deception regarding 1/3 of the bonds not even being included in the mayor's $56 number repayment cost for a $250,000 home, you will see how your property taxes would be lower if you vote no. So when I put lower your rent, that would actually be true. That's actually a true statement. It's not propaganda. Obviously it is, but it's not false propaganda. Okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and, sorry, I'm going to go into the weeds a little bit because it's just my show and I get to do it finally. I get to read my memorandum, which is an in-depth analysis of the numbers the city was and is putting out to justify a vote of yes. Sorry, some of the stuff will be repetitive, but those first ones were the bullet points. Easily you should vote no. Now let me give you the very, very big lies and the specific impacts. Now, if you want these materials, send me an email and I'll send you this memo. It's got all of the links to it. So I use all of their information and statements for this. When I do my good faith estimate, I'll tell you how I did it. That I don't use their materials, I use their assumptions. But everything else is what they have said. Okay, my name is John Goldstein. I'm a taxpayer and property owner of the city of Austin. I'm also a Texas attorney. Quick history. A few of us came together last year and shockingly killed the museum quality Travis County Courthouse bond tax by 1,037 votes. And it turns out that voting does matter. We all have another decision to make this November. The $720 million mobility bond. Every household in the city of Austin, including mine, has to pay it back in our property tax bills every year for 20 years. We borrowers rely on our elected officials to give us the information we need to make a borrowing decision. We even trust our elected officials to give us true information during a legitimate, fair, transparent, and open process so that we can all make this very large borrowing decision. Well, our city's process has failed us with 4 big deceptions. Remember, most importantly, if the process is bad, wrong, or corrupt, we must vote no. The City of Austin in the Greg Canale memo. Greg Canale is a not chief financial officer. He's one of the financial officers of the city. Dated June 22nd, 2016 to council. Started using the phrase tax impact as a means of showing what the tax impact would be to the owner of a $250,000 home. I have the link. This number, $56, then appeared numerous times in the Statesman, Community Impact, and Austin Monitor as it related to the $720 million bond. During the public discussions and documentation at council, the same number was used by the mayor, council members, and city staff. We have a video. Additionally, we have further resources from the city with their voter information brochure. There's the link. Big deception number 1. The $56 number has been attached to the $720 million. It actually is only for $480 million, as you can see in the Canale memo. But that is deceptive to say the least. Using their numbers, it should be 1.5 times the $56. And it turns out the numbers are perfect fractions. 480 million is 2/3 of 720 million, and 240 million is 1/3. Or the number should be $84. That is the first, biggest, and fatal deception. It's actually not. There's more fatal deceptions. But that is what the constituents of the city council and council itself saw prior to the first and second readings on August 11th, 2016. The third reading on August 18th, 2016. And that is what the constituents now see in the website info and the city's bond calculator. Excuse me. The $56. They've doubled down on this deception, including Mayor Adler's myth-dispelling speech tour on September 28th through 29th, 2016. He called my fellow taxpayers and I, well, liars, as reported by Ben Ware, September 29th, 2016. Quotes, Mayor Steve Adler lashed back Wednesday at unnamed critics who have knocked his $720 million transportation bond proposition, saying in a midday speech that they have misrepresented the tax impact of the bonds and details of the underlying road projects. When you get emails or see blogs that say awful things about this bond and say that can't be true, it probably isn't, Adler said in an Austin Board of Realtors forum. Those who have been attacking the plan, saying an associated tax increase will be much larger than Adler and other supporters have said, are part of a breed of eternal skeptics who have held back progress in Austin, the mayor said. Adler stood by the less than $5 a month figure. If you get a contradictory answer, other than that, it is not true, he said. Additionally, not included in this figure, or in anyone's figures for that matter, is the required increase in the transportation fee. This is me speaking now. To maintain these smart corridors, the medians, the raised, landscaped, irrigated medians, as detailed in a memo from Mark Ott to council. Since this is a fee, the mayor can claim he is not lying, as it is not included in his tax bill impact number of $56. See, everything stinks. Everything they've done on this, and I don't know why they did it this way. If they had just said $84, I could have made a slight argument. Maybe. Why? Why? I don't understand. People ask me this. I don't understand. Big deception number 2. The second big deception is that this tax impact is what a $250,000 homeowner will have to pay annually in additional property taxes to pay back this loan. It is only the impact of 2.25 cents. That's how they defined it. In this case, the official proponents will be able to truthfully say that the tax impact of 2.25 cents will be $56 to the $250,000 homeowner. They have defined tax impact to not be the repayment cost of the bond to the $250,000 homeowner at full funding. However, using the city's advertised 2.25 cents, using a total taxable figure in the city of Austin of $115 billion from certified rolls for Travis County, and a telephone call with the appraiser, Williamson County Appraisal District, as well as confirmation by city staff, the tax revenue generated will not cover the $57 million annual mortgage bond payment to the bondholders. It only generates approximately $25 million, less than half of the mortgage bond payment on the fully funded $720 million. Additionally, the city has created further confusion in direct contradiction to the 2.25 cents and $56 number in its voter information brochure. This brochure contains the same $56 number, but critically on page 8, a quote. Based upon market conditions as of the date of this ordinance and using taxable assessed values for the 2015 tax year, 2015-2016 fiscal year, without adjustment for anticipated growth in taxable assessed value in future years, if the bonds and notes are authorized, the estimated total tax rate of the city is expected to be approximately 0.5339 per $100 of taxable assessed value, which represents an increase of 7.5 cents per $100 of taxable assessed valuation. Without going into the weeds, and I am in the weeds, you're not supposed to go into the weeds at a press conference, but this is not a press conference. We're in the weeds. This extra 7.5 cents that's on the ballot, it equates to $75 per $100,000 of value, or $187 for a $250,000 home, using the city's own information. So, Mr. Mayor, which number is correct? The $56 or the $187? Who's putting out the myths, Mr. Mayor, and creating the confusion? Additionally, on the online forum hosted by Aura on AURA on October 18, 2016, a written response from Ted Siff of Get Austin Moving shows the deliberate confusion by proponents. Quotes, This proposal uses half of the city's current capacity to issue bonds without a tax increase. Now, I got the community impact, and Amy Denny confirmed this inconsistent statement in the October 2016 community impact. Quotes, calculating the impact of the increased tax rate is an issue. Austin resident Roger Falk, an analyst with Travis County Taxpayers Union, refutes. He said fine print in the city's own bond flyer that says the city's overall tax rate would increase to 53.39 cents, representing a 7.5 cent increase versus a 2.25 cent increase if the city sold all of its $720 million in bonds. Greg Canale said this language is required by state law to show the financial impact as if all the bonds were issued the day after the election. So again, let me just go back to this. The mayor says, my staff says 2.25 cents. And 2.25 cents, by the way, equates to $56 for $250,000. It's a math problem. But they have to say that it's actually 7.5 cents if you sold all of the bonds, an actual repayment cost. So the 56 is really 187. 3.5 times. 3 times. Back to Canale. Quotes, the assumption it makes is we would issue all $720 million and would have to raise immediately the tax rate, and that would be 7.5 cents. Close quotes. Canale said, we wouldn't do that. That's not how bonds work. Why is it not 7.5 cents 8 years from now? Okay, I don't know what that means. We're paying off existing debt over time. Oh, I'm going to get to this one. If I could only let all the voters know about these lies. They're so complicated that people just turn it off. But it's just simple. That $56 number is 3 times that. By the city's own information. That would be DTPA, Deceptive Trade Practices Act, if it was a person trying to sell you a lawnmower. It's $87. No, excuse me, it's $56. No, it's $187. And it would be triple damages. We don't have that. And his number, by the way, this 187, it's higher than my good faith estimate that we're going to get to. Big deception number 3. The third big deception, and one of the ugliest of them all, they're all ugly, is a statement reported by Ben Ware in articles August 19th, 2016 and October 10th, 2016. From city staff at the August 18th, 2016 third reading when I did my citizen communication. And the mayor for the October 10th Ben Ware article. That when the final $240 million is issued, it was misstated as $250 million in the article, other bonds will have been paid off, so the tax impact to a $250,000 home will be 0. Let me repeat. The repayment cost for a $240 million loan will be 0. It is as though you have paid off an $800 monthly car payment on the same day that you buy a home that has an $800 mortgage. So your lender tells you the impact is 0. How much is my mortgage? 0. Or using the city's logic, if we were paying off $480 million of other bonds prior to selling these bonds, the tax impact, I'm talking about doing it now, assuming the same interest rate, would be 0. Now, how would he have been able to do that? So look at it this way. He's saying it's 2.25 cents for $480 million. And he says it's 0 for the $240 million because we're paying off other bonds. What if we were paying off other bonds at the time when we issued the first $480? Would he be saying, just think about how bad his lie is. We know the answer to this. He wouldn't be saying that the impact on the $480 million is 0. He wouldn't. Again, that's my opinion. But I guarantee you that's the lie. It's a completely misleading, deceptive shell game lie by the city. If you think about it, the council members who supported the bond language on the third reading, the mayor and city staff are either 1, incompetent in that they stupidly forgot to put the full impact to a borrow in the number that turned out to be the $56 number, or 2, They intentionally knew and misled the public throughout this entire process that the $56 tax impact number was not the actual payment number to an owner of a $250,000 property. Sorry for the details, but this is what people ask me. How do you know? And I'm just using their information. That other part about how they would have done it with the 480, I'm just saying that's using their logic. That's how that would work. But I don't know that to be a fact because that's not the way it was. But we do know that they're saying there's a zero impact for the final $240 million. Zero impact. That is just ridiculous. Just a ridiculous lie. It's why people hate government. It is. And this is one of those times we can hold their feet to the fire. You can't control that federal debt, but we can sure as hell control this debt. Okay. Big deception number 4. Here's the big item that requires you to concentrate. In 2013, for the affordable housing bond, when I went to the city's website early in the process, prior to the famous informational sessions where the city tries to sell the public on these bonds, and we get to ask questions, I found that the only financial disclosure of the repayment costs to the taxpayers, the borrowers, the homeowners, and the renters was no increase in the property tax rate is anticipated as a result of this bond issuance. I do not have the web address on that, but I have a PDF of the brochure. They had put no number at all in their written disclosures as to the repayment amount for this bond. I alerted the city council. I alerted the city staff. I asked, what kind of transparency is this? What kind of truth in lending is this? I got silence, but I thought I had warned them. Well, here we are again, and by the way, it appears that we are not the only taxpayers in Central Texas being lied to by confusion, misdirection, and omission. So, when I did this last year for the bond there, the courthouse bond, the process that we used of looking at the procedure that we used to look at the process versus the merits is usually the same for all bonds. And if you can't get over that hurdle of process, you have to vote no. It doesn't matter what it's for. Well, I had somebody hear one of my speeches and ask me to help out on a couple other things. Here we go. This November in Hays County, their sole financial impact disclosures are, but the final say is yours. These are general obligation bonds, meaning they will be sold to investors backed by the full faith and credit of Hays County and paid off using county property taxes, your taxes. Whether to go forward is up to you this election. Passage of the bond propositions on the November ballot will not likely raise the county tax rate, according to the county's financial officers. Hays County's financial advisor and the county auditor, who is hired independently of Commissioner's Court, both said the county should be able to manage up to $250 million in new bond projects without raising the tax rate. The combined total of Proposition 1 and Proposition 2, if both pass, is approximately $237 million. That is Hays County's disclosure of the financial impact to a taxpayer. It is actually closer to $200 per year for an average home, $175,000 median per Hays County at full funding. They are putting out a giant lie by omission by not publishing a repayment number at all. For this November in the Bastrop Independent School District, the big lie is stating that for their bond, the financial impact will be minus $3.25 per year for the 2016-2017 fiscal year per $100,000 of value. Or a minus, yes, I said minus, $4.68 for an average $144,000 home. And then I have a link. Well, in 2016-2017, there will be no bonds yet sold. So their number is a lie by confusion, misdirection, or omission. And the actual number is closer to $270.88 per year at full funding. For this November, the Smithville Independent School District is trying to sell a $35 million bond. All these I worked on. It appears that there is a problem with their repayment number as well, since their published number is $209 per $100,000 of value. And using the good faith estimate that I have below, which was less than the Greg Canale 7.5 cent required on the ballot number, the number is $443.65 per $100,000 of value. $440 for a per $100,000 of value. No one can afford that. And no one in Smithville knows it except for a couple of people who have been trying to get the word out. It seems that these few identified city, county, and school districts that are allowed to issue bonds to be paid back with other people's money, your property tax money, all of ours, feel that they need to deceive the borrowers, the taxpayers, the owners, and the renters in order to get the votes they need for these giant loans to pass. In our case, I have to ask the mayor and Austin City Council, and I'm referring to the 6 council members who supported the third reading of the ballot language. Didn't I warn you to be truthful and transparent so that I would not be able to accuse you of lying by confusion, misdirection, or omission? And I have the link to that Citizens Communications. I warned them. Why? And I got to ask, why are you doing it this way? Why are you allowing me to make these arguments? Well, since the other jurisdictions are doing it, people operate by incentives is probably why I'd say it. And there needs to be some state legislative changes. I may have to try and get up there and talk. I'm a terrible talker. I'm a better writer. Okay. When you buy a home and get a mortgage, you get something which is required by federal law called a good faith estimate. It shows your actual interest rate, including all the fees. It shows your estimated payment, unless you lock, in which case you could get pretty close to what the payment will be during the life of the loan. When you get to the closing, you sign a promissory note, which is an IOU that states how much you borrowed, what your interest rate will be, what the maturity date is for the loan, and most importantly, the payment amount each month of principal and interest. If it deviates from the good faith estimate at the beginning, before you sign everything, you don't have to close on the home. In 2013, during the time leading up to the affordable housing bond vote, I was troubled by the lack of a repayment number from the city of Austin. So I calculated a repayment number from an amortization calculator. Figured out how much total taxable property was in the city of Austin. Actually, the city's financial staff graciously gave me that number. And I started publicizing that number. Talking, letters to the editor, Citizens Communications. And that number was a long way from, quotes, this was their disclosure, no increase in the property tax rate is anticipated as a result of this bond issuance, as quoted above. Now, my good faith estimate number of $42.75 per year for a median house, $272,000 for the city of Austin, was a transparent estimate. Transparency, I will stand here and tell you how I got it, who I talked to, what assumptions I used. Completely different than the mayor's 2.25 cents, $56 number. Anyway, I gave the number to the council, city staff at a later informational session. At the rail bond vote, which was a few years later, and last year's failed museum quality courthouse bond, I calculated another good faith estimate. I was just trying to come up with something, anything better than the failed disclosures of the city. This year, it turns out that in the few Central Texas cases when a governing authority gives a number, it smells like a lie by confusion, misdirection, or omission. It smells. In real estate, when something smells, it has a smell. But when you see something that doesn't seem right, we call it there's a bad smell. We have the same problem with this mobility bond tax impact number. Remember his definition of 56. There is no good faith estimate from the city. In fact, I would characterize it as a bad faith estimate. Because we all want to trust our elected officials, we really do, to help us make an informed decision on this large bond. And actually, all of the bonds are large loans and require careful thinking. Doesn't matter if this is the biggest ever, it's 30 million you need to think about it. All households have to make borrowing decisions based on facts. Facts as to cost, facts as to repayment amount, and facts as to individual liability for the repayments. Now, we know that the interest rate might change. We got it. But I just used their assumption, so I used theirs. Now, I have calculated what I call a good faith estimate for this bond. I'm going to be totally transparent about how I got to the number using the City of Austin's own numbers and assumptions. As I said in this thing, if the numbers are wrong, tell me. I'm happy to receive criticism of this method. One criticism I received that this might be an interest-only coupon. However, in that case, the city's number of $56 is even farther off than the method detailed below. I'm just trying to come up with some uniform method of telling us, the borrowers, how much this bond is going to cost us if we vote yes. I did the same thing for Hayes County, Bastrop ISD, Smithville ISD, and I used the City of Austin assumptions. All I did was take 20 years, 2 payments per year for Greg Canale, 5%, used a bond calculator, I have the link, Each half-year payment is $28 million. It's $57 million per year. He actually said 5 to 6%, so I gave him the more conservative number. We found the total taxable property in the city of Austin, $115 billion. And all I want to do was find out what a $100,000 sliver is out of the entire $115 billion. It turns out that number is 0.6087. That's the total sliver. We don't have to worry about exemptions, freezes, or transfers. You can look at your thing, see what your number is after all the exemptions you get, homestead, and you can figure out how much it will be to actually pay back the loan. We have no other loans. We borrow $720 million. This is your payment right now. It's $50 per 100,000. They have $22.30 per 100,000. He has $56 per 250,000. I have $125 per 250,000. In their disclosure, remember, they have $187. That's the only way we can make a decision. Come up with something versus these lies. Finally, with these 4 big myths or omissions or misdirections or incompetent communications or lies, one of which I would consider fatal, actually 3 of them are fatal, no matter what the reason behind it, the no tax impact for the final $240 million statement, a complete failure to follow any kind of truth in lending standard, a failure to fully disclose the cost, which for all the numbers discussed in this memo, is 3 times the amount due to the plans for the corridors being incomplete. So multiply my 125 times 3. It's really $375. And a refusal to have scheduled public informational sessions for this bond. We can only conclude that the process has failed. And we have a duty to vote no. We don't even have to look at the merits of the bond. It's not relevant when they deceive the borrowers, the taxpayers, the owners, and the renters of the city. It's a bit sad because I regularly ride a bike and I like bike lanes. But no matter what might be in this giant boondoggle that we each might like and want, we have to vote no because of this broken system of deceptively selling bonds to the borrowers. Us. Thank you. So that's the end of that memo. And I've got my my actual citizen communications in here, but I'm not going to read it. I'm going to send this out via email to all the people on the emails. You have the links already on it. Put those up on Facebook. In any event, we must vote no. It's just a big pile of lies. Monetarily, what it's going to do, the bikers are being lied to, the drivers are being lied to, the businesses are being lied to, and the borrowers are being lied to. All right, that's it for that. Thanks for coming out. Oh, and based solely on Citizens United Supreme Court justices, HRC is the candidate to vote for. All other issues are irrelevant if the democracy continues its steep decline with super PACs guiding and writing laws for both parties. I had a big argument with my friend Matt about that. He thought that Trump was probably more likely to appoint, and I don't think so. I think if he were elected, he would probably have to toe the Republican Party line. They would probably retain their hold on the Senate. So the more likely way to overturn Citizens United is not going to be the 7-year process of doing a constitutional amendment. It's going to be getting justices that will allow Congress to legislate against these entities that are not persons entitled to free speech rights in the form of unlimited campaign contributions. By the way, corporations do not have a religion. The individuals may, but saying that a corporation does not have a religion does not inhibit a person's right to go to a church. My God, Hobby Lobby, what a terrible case. Vote no. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.